What's the worst instance of metagaming you've seen? Hello, fellow infinite spark of the universe. It's me, your friend, Dave Makes Noises, back with another anthology of Dungeons & Dragons experiences for your entertainment. Please check out our subreddit, r/Mr. Ripper, as that's where we are decidedly gathering stories now. Of course, as always, if you have encountered some piss-poor metagaming, you are welcome to share it in the comments below. And again, big news, weekly Mr. Ripper live streams. That's right, kiddos, every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. GMT. Now, with that out of the way, let's get this train wreck a-rolling. I once played an online game where the DM was basing the session off a pre-written adventure, but altering a lot of the details. After the DM finished reading the description of this one room, one of the players immediately said that he would check the closet, except the DM had not mentioned a closet. There was a closet with a sweet magic item in the adventure as written, but that was something the DM had removed. So, it was clear this player was reading the adventure as we were playing it. He immediately logged off in shame, and the session came to an awkward close soon after. That is shameful conduct. That's what that is. That player should be ashamed. Enjoy the story. Like, just enjoy, experience it. If you want to look up the stat block of a monster you fought after you're done fighting it, sure, why not? But play the game, dude, or don't. During the campaign's first dragon fight, a new player told the group, "Okay, it's green, and it has a 15-foot reach, so it's clearly a adult green dragon, at least. So the AC is 27, and it's got DR 5 magic, and we're looking at a 12d6 breath weapon." I told him, first, stop that. Second, you've memorized the 3.5 monster manual, but we're playing Pathfinder, where the stats are different. Third, stop that. So I had this bard. Didn't play him much, didn't like him much, but I thought he was interesting because I put everything into his ability to pretend to be other people. Put everything into disguise, deception, persuasion, took the acting feat so he could mimic the voices of others, disguise kits so he could look exactly like them, and make sure he could cast disguise self as well. He also had a bag of holding full of clothes so he could disguise himself in various ways. I had been playing him a few months, however, and I hadn't actually gotten to disguise him yet. Then it happens. We come across this really large bandit camp. The DM urges us to charge in, but someone wonders if we should try to infiltrate it. Yes, I say. So we capture a guard that was wandering around. I talk to him, learn his name is Bob the Bandit, that he's from Mirabar, and that his family isn't too well off, so he came to the Sword Coast to look for money. I know that his sister's name is Betty the Baker, and that his best friend is Barry the Bandit as well. I think Barry the Bandit as well is capitalized, so that's his full name. The guy's name is not Barry the Bandit, it's Barry the Bandit as well. I learn everything I can about this guy. So I roll my disguise check before adding all my ridiculous bonuses. I get around an 18 if I recall correctly, something really high. So we were all psyched. I'm essentially this bandit now. We will be able to learn everything about why these bandits are here and what is going on. We spend about an hour doing this, and the DM is still trying to convince us we could just go attack the bandit camp. So I walk into camp confidently and ask the DM what I see. He tells me I see two bandits walk up to me, and one says, "You owe us money, Bob," and then starts to attack me with swords to my body, because when someone owes you money, you always just stab them, right? Yeah, no chance for any infiltration, pretending to be Bob, or any role-playing. I try really hard to play Bob while they are stabbing me, but no other bandits help me, and I eventually go down. Then the party has to rush in and just fight. I was really upset. I feel like I said this in a previous video, but like, definitely let your players play. Like, if your player has spent all of this time and effort and research invested into a really unique, cool ability, give them the opportunity to use it. It should be a no-brainer. I don't understand why so many DMs are so like, almost like, seems like they're desperate for like complete railroading of the story, that they're not willing to allow their players to just play and exist in the world and, you know, imagine and explore. And I don't get with that. I, as a DM, probably did the most egregious example of metagaming, but it had a point. My party had to find their way through a 4-dimensional hypercube, where every time you went through a door, you ended up in a different time and room. There were 8 rooms, past, present, and future. Eventually, they found their way to the chamber of the wizard that runs the chamber. Said wizard was a parable. If you know anything about 4th edition Epic Destinies, a parable basically believes life is a story. So in this case, he was a time wizard that knew it was a D&D game. He proceeded to hint about all sorts of upcoming plot points and made jokes about game mechanics. One of the PCs asked him if he could help them fight the big bad evil guy, and he told them he wasn't high enough leveled for that. He also made one of the player characters immortal from old age. Still one of the most memorable sessions. I'm probably the worst offender in my group. Case in point, our party is following the trail of a missing girl from a nearby village in a very rural area. Whenever we pass by a cottage or farm, we stop to investigate. In one remote hut, we find an old woman who lives alone. During the conversation, the DM quickly flips open the monster manual and closes it again. I noticed that he had opened it almost exactly halfway through, which means that he was checking an entry in the middle of the alphabet letter range. I just immediately blurted out, "What is she, a night hag?" without fully realizing that I'd spoiled the surprise through metagaming. It is hard to turn off parts of your brain sometimes. Ran Tomb of Horrors for an old group. Spoilers ahead! This guy had been metagaming hard the whole session. He pressed the stones on the misty archway in the right order. He went straight to the torturer's fresco and opened the secret door. It was obvious he knew the module pretty well. So in the room with the 3 chests, I changed them around on him. He opened the one with the skeleton first, which promptly killed him because he was off on his own. I am a DM in a 5th edition campaign, and the friends I play with are all relatively new. Naturally, the party split up. The one adventurer, Murdan, was watching 2 other party members, Akmenos and Ololamin, travel through a crowd. While in the crowd, Akmenos was pickpocketed and did not see where the pickpocket went. This is where it began. Murdan complained that he would have been able to see the criminal run out of the crowd. A hasty conclusion. So I tell him he sees a dwarf run into an alleyway. Murdan follows. Immediately, Murdan starts asking questions. The dwarf is holding his coin purse, and Murdan instantly jumps to the conclusion that it is his party members. His character did not know of the pickpocketing and therefore had no real quarrel with this dwarf. Murdan attacks the dwarf, who did not commit the crime, and ends up bleeding in a shit-filled alleyway after the dwarf got a lucky crit. The dwarf takes Murdan's coin purse and reports Murdan to the guards as a criminal. Karma's a bitch. Yes, it is. Long story short, or short story long, by the looks of it, haha, got him. The party was stuck in Groundhog Day, reliving the same day repeatedly. They figured it had something to do with the arcane university that had an opaque shield around it in the center of town. I had planned that the shield prevented all means of communication, specifically outlining them. Basically no scrying or the sorts. The evil chronomancer inside watched and played with the town, intrigued at how the party escaped his trap. One player wrote a detailed note and placed it on the wall of the opaque shield. I hadn't planned for them to try and do something like that, so I went with it. I asked for a will save, which he voluntarily failed in order to let the guy in. He was able to ask one question before the chronomancer left. He did this every day for a week. After the week, when he tried it again, I told him to hand over his character sheet. He knew that he would get dominated eventually, but saw the questions and answers as worth the risk. Immediately, one player screams, "You aren't Carmichael!" and tries to break the domination. Like the character sheet wasn't even in front of me yet. After 10 minutes of arguing, he finally stood down. The second, I tried talking as the bad guy. He screams again, "You aren't Carmichael! He doesn't talk like that!" I told him that he had no reason to just make that assumption. This player burned 4 hours of game time. I tried moving on, but he downright refused. He threw fits even. Another player, one that doesn't get really involved and just likes playing with friends, spoke up. "Oh, what did he say?" The bad guy gave an answer, and the metagaming player asked him to ask him a question. I forget what it was, but when the bad guy went to write it down, the player that barely spoke up asked what hand the bad guy was using. The right hand? The player that barely spoke up reminded me that Carmichael was left-handed. He charged in and pinned him to the ground, since that was totally justified. That session is easily my most frustrating and proudest at the same time. I have a player I've banned from using his laptop in session whenever I DM because he always looks up maps and stat blocks from previous monsters without asking. Worst example, we're on an unexplored continent in 4th edition Eberron, Argonnessen, the Dragon Continent, and we've caught him reading it when we're lost in a desert. One time, our party decided to fight a god. We encountered some underground lizard people on the way who had some soothsayers. We paid them to foretell our future. The first 100 attack rolls that would occur during our battle, i.e. we rolled 100 d20 ahead of time and recorded all the results. Literally every single round of battle was metagamed to make sure that we hit all of the crits and set up the enemies, who did not have the future foretold to them, to miss all of their attacks. Our barbarian got to strike the killing blow, decapitating the god on its own sacrificial altar, literally one turn before our paladin was permanently encased in ice by its magic shadow. Still one of the most awesome battles I've ever participated in. A dude I'll call Dweezil. He knew how to use the perception of metagaming to protect himself from consequences. Dweezil wanted to steal Bill's unique holy symbol, so Dweezil emails Bill and the GM saying, "I'm going to steal Bill's holy symbol next session." After the theft, he flaunts the holy symbol in front of Bill and then sells it. The whole time, the GM is telling Bill he's not allowed to retaliate or even try to buy the symbol back because that would be metagaming. The GM admitted that Bill's icy reasoning was sound, and if not for the email, he'd allow it. But because he wasn't 100% sure that it wasn't metagamed, he had to ban Bill from doing anything about it. So Dweezil got off scot-free because he was able to metagame. A lesson that taught me to conduct any solo shenanigans away from the table. It was a Shadowrun campaign. My character went in, cracked a safe, and found 10,000 new yen to split between the 5 of us. I came back to the party and announced, "Hey guys, I found 5,000 new yen in the safe," pocketing the other half. Obviously, one of the players refused to give up in casting Read Mind on me, despite everyone else saying that he had no justification to do something that invasive. And despite my threats that I'd just shoot his ass if he went and did it, he finally convinced the DM to let him judge intent and gave enough reasons to do so. And since my charisma was a dump stat, I obviously failed that and had to share the entire 10K. Of course, after that, the player's character had no reason to trust me anymore, so all of his judge intents and read thoughts were much more justifiable. I was rather pissed and let on as much to the DM, but for the sake of the game, we just went with it and I got more creative with my thievery. What is up, you beautiful, unending celestial spirit of infinite potential ecstatic chaos? Thank you for landing your magnificent chariot here at our battlefield. Thank you for tuning into our live streams. In case you forgot already, we're streaming every Sunday now, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. GMT. I am in disbelief. We hit a major milestone this past week or so. 100,000 subscribers. I think we get a plaque for that. I literally can't believe it. When I joined this channel in November 2019 as nothing more than a fan, I had no idea what was to come. I don't think any of us were expecting this to go as far as it has, as fast as it has. It's all because of you. Thank you so much. We absolutely love Dungeons and Dragons, and at least 100,000 of you seem to agree with us. Like, imagine a world where you can just talk about D&D and like geek out on it and have that be your job. That is our reality right now, and I can't even, imagine explaining that to Gary Gygax in the late 1960s, that he would create a cultural movement that has its own media network companies, plural, companies, and become one of the most popular sources of entertainment, not just a game, in the world. I just hope we can make Papa Gary proud. He's given us so much, from social interaction where typically folk like us would have none, to a temporary escape from the soul-crushing, ever-grinding gears of late-stage capitalism within the theater of our very own minds, through the lens of infinite creativity that dwells there. Imagine that. A game where you fight pretend dragons with your friends and all of your collective imaginary friends, becoming an entire cultural movement. We've gone from the fringes of entertainment, panned as devil-worshipping black magicians by the church, to celebrity status, movies, TV shows, video games. I mean, if this is something that can happen in the world today, then that gives me hope for the future. And the most valuable lesson of all, which is written into the very game itself right from the beginning, is simply to explore every nook and cranny of your reality and find out for yourself what lies in wait, to observe and interact, to quest, to fight, to win, to lose, to grow, and to die knowing that we have a greater purpose. That is a powerful lesson to learn. When you think about the way that the organizations operate, those who used to try and instill fear about D&D, those who seek to stem creativity, it makes perfect sense why they fear that kind of medicine falling into too many hands. Keep adventuring, kiddos. You know you love it. That's all for today. Please sub for Nat 20s, and we'll see you next time.